You can't unknow these psychology tricks. Number 1. The trick your mind plays in the first 3 seconds. They say don't judge a book by its cover. But your brain? It does in less than 3 seconds. Here's the truth. Before you finish saying, hello, the other person's brain has already decided who you are. Not based on facts. Not based on your story. But based on how you look, how you stand, and how you sound. This is called thin slicing, a psychological term that describes our brain's ability to form accurate or wildly inaccurate judgments based on very limited information. And it happens fast. Blindingly fast. Think about it. You walk into a room. You see someone standing tall, dressed sharply, making eye contact. Instantly, you assume they're confident. Maybe smart. Maybe successful. You feel drawn to them, and you don't even know why. But now flip the image. Someone walks in, slouches a little, avoids eye contact, looks nervous. You think, insecure. Maybe even, not someone I trust. All of that from just a glance. Here's the kicker. Your brain doesn't wait for evidence. It creates a story. It creates a narrative that fits what it wants to believe, and then goes looking for proof. That's not rational. It's emotional. It's primitive. And it's how your ancestors survived. Thousands of years ago, there wasn't time for deep conversations. You had to decide, quickly, is this person safe or dangerous? So your brain developed shortcuts. Those shortcuts still run the show today. Now, here's the part that most people miss. You're being judged the same way. Every room you walk into, every first date, every job interview, people are forming opinions before you even speak. Not because they're cruel, but because they're human. And the good news? You could train your first impression. It's not about faking anything. It's about becoming intentional. Straighten your posture. Practice stillness when you speak. Drop your tone slightly at the end of a sentence to signal confidence. Make eye contact, but don't stare. Dress like the person you want to be treated as. The difference between someone seen as a leader and someone overlooked often comes down to those first 3 seconds. Once you understand that, you can stop hoping people get you and start showing up in a way they can't ignore. This trick can shape your career, your relationships, your self-worth. And once you know it, you can never unsee it. Number 2, why we trust confident liars over humble truth-tellers. It doesn't feel fair. The loudest voice in the room, the one who seems so sure of themselves, often gets the trust, the influence, the spotlight. Even when they're wrong. Even when their facts are flimsy. Even when deep down, you know they're bluffing. Meanwhile, the quiet thinker in the corner, the one who double-checks their words, who admits when they're unsure, who doesn't pretend to know it all, often ignored, overlooked, dismissed. Why? Because confidence hacks the brain. It triggers a deep psychological reflex that screams, if they believe in themselves, maybe I should too. It's called the confidence heuristic, a cognitive shortcut where people assume that confident behavior equals competence, even when there's no proof. And here's the terrifying truth. We are more persuaded by how someone says something than by what they say. Think about it. In job interviews, in politics, in relationships, the person who sounds sure is trusted more than the person who's right. Even if that confidence is fake. Even if it's covering up insecurity or manipulation. And let's go even deeper. Sometimes we lie to ourselves for the same reason. We follow the bold voice inside us that says, this is fine, even when it's not. Because it's easier to trust confidence than to confront uncertainty. So what do we do with this knowledge? Here's what the unbreakable mind learns. Confidence is not always a signal of truth. It's often a signal of repetition, training, or even ego. And here's the wild part. Confidence can be practiced. You don't need to feel ready to appear confident. You can act your way into certainty by speaking slowly, grounding your voice, and holding your frame. The best communicators in the world, they don't just speak facts. They deliver those facts with gravity. They pause. They own the space. They've trained their presence to match their words. And you can too. Now, if you're naturally humble, reflective, soft-spoken, that's a strength. But don't let it stop you from owning your truth. You don't have to shout. You don't have to fake it. But you do need to speak with self-respect. Because here's what happens when you combine truth with confidence. People listen. People remember. People follow. So the next time someone bold and wrong takes over the room, remember, it's not just what they know. It's how they're showing up. And you can show up with grounded power. The kind that doesn't just impress, it transforms. Number 3, the power of mirroring and how it secretly builds trust. You've done it without even realizing it. You've nodded when someone else nodded. You've crossed your arms after they crossed theirs. You've smiled when they smiled, even if you didn't feel like it. That's mirroring, and it's one of the most powerful, invisible psychology tricks in human behavior. But here's what most people miss. Mirroring isn't just mimicry. It's a primal signal. It says, I'm like you. You could trust me. Let's go back thousands of years. To survive, humans had to bond fast. Strangers needed to know, are you a threat or my tribe? So the brain evolved a shortcut. If someone reflects your body language, your tone, your emotional state, they must be safe. Fast forward to today, and mirroring still runs the show. But now it works silently in meetings, dates, interviews, therapy sessions, even sales calls. When someone mirrors you subtly, your guard drops. You feel seen. You feel understood. You don't even know why. You just like them. And here's where it gets fascinating. You can use mirroring intentionally to build connection, calm conflict, and deepen influence. Imagine this. You're in a tense conversation. Instead of reacting, you soften your tone to match theirs. You slow your breathing. You subtly adopt their posture. Watch what happens. Their shoulders relax. Their voice lowers. The tension dissolves. Why? Because they feel met. Their nervous system says, I'm not alone in this. Or picture this. You're building rapport with someone new. They speak with quick energy, so you match that rhythm. They lean forward. You lean just a little too. Not copying, just reflecting. It tells their subconscious, we speak the same language. But here's a warning. Forced mirroring backfires. If it feels fake, exaggerated, or too fast, people sense manipulation. Mirroring must come from a place of curiosity, presence, and empathy. This isn't a trick to control people. It's a tool to connect. And it works beyond body language. You can mirror words. When someone says, I feel overwhelmed, you reflect, that sounds really heavy. Overwhelmed is the right word. That's verbal mirroring. It shows you're listening deeply. You can mirror emotions. If someone's excited, match that excitement. If they're quiet, don't overwhelm them with loud energy. When you do this consistently, people start to trust you faster. They open up. They feel safe without knowing why. And here's the part most people never realize. You can mirror yourself too. When you're anxious, pause. Breathe slow. Mirror the calmness you wish you had. When you're feeling scattered, speak slowly. Sit with intention. Mirror the grounded energy you want to embody. Because the brain responds to what it sees, even if the signal comes from you. This is how leaders lead without shouting. How therapists build breakthroughs. How people with unbreakable minds walk into any room and create resonance. Not through dominance, but through subtle alignment. So the next time you want to connect, don't force it. Just mirror it. The body knows the language. All you have to do is speak it. Number 4, the spotlight effect and why everyone's too busy to judge you. Let's start with a quick mental picture. You walk into a room, maybe a meeting, a classroom, or even a party. You feel like every eye is on you, analyzing what you're wearing, how you look, the way you walk. You get self-conscious. Your palms get sweaty. You think, everyone's watching me. What if I mess up? But here's the truth. They're not. They're thinking the same thing. And this is what psychology calls the spotlight effect. It's a cognitive bias where we dramatically overestimate how much people notice us. We think the world's a stage, and we're the unwilling star. But in reality, everyone else is far too busy worrying about their own spotlight. That stain on your shirt? That awkward pause you had mid-sentence? That weird hair day you're stressing over? Chances are, no one noticed. And if they did, they forgot 5 minutes later. Let me show you how deeply this runs. In a famous study by Thomas Gilovich, students were asked to wear a bright yellow, embarrassing t-shirt, think Barry Manilow, and walk into a room full of strangers. They were convinced everyone noticed and judged them. But when researchers asked the others in the room, very few even remembered what was on the shirt. Why? Because most people are tuned into their own fears, their own performance, their own inner stage. It's not selfishness. It's just human nature. And yet, the spotlight effect keeps us stuck. We stay quiet when we have something important to say. We hold back ideas in meetings. We don't speak up in class. We edit ourselves in relationships. We shrink because we think the world is watching. But the truth is freeing. They're not. And that's your power. Here's how this mindset shift changes everything. You start taking more chances. You speak without rehearsing every line. You stop replaying that awkward moment because no one else is. You are what makes you feel alive. You show up with authenticity, not anxiety. And ironically, that's when people really start noticing you. Not for being perfect, but for being real. Because when someone walks into a room fully themselves, not posturing, not hiding, it's magnetic. You feel their presence. Why? Because they're not busy shrinking. They're busy being. So the next time you feel that heat of the spotlight, pause. And remind yourself, it's mostly in your head. People aren't zoomed in on your flaws. They're busy zoomed in on theirs. And the ones who do judge are doing so because of their insecurities, not your reality. Let that sink in. Because once you internalize this, you unlock something powerful. Freedom. Freedom to try. Freedom to fail. Freedom to take up space. And that's where confidence begins. Not in being flawless, but in being unbothered. Number 5. What people defend reveals what they're afraid to face. Have you ever found yourself arguing with someone? Not about facts, not about logic, but about something deeper? Maybe they're defending a toxic relationship, or fiercely loyal to a belief that's clearly causing them pain. Or they shut down any feedback that might push them to grow. And you're left wondering, why can't they see it? Why do people defend what's clearly hurting them? Here's the psychological truth. People don't defend ideas. They defend their identity. And that makes all the difference. Because challenging their belief feels like challenging who they are. And if you attack that, even gently, they don't hear your words. They feel a threat. This is the invisible armor of the ego, forged by a force called cognitive dissonance. It's what happens when our actions and beliefs don't align. When there's a gap between what we say and what we do. And instead of facing the painful truth, we patch the hole with stories, with justifications, with denial. Here's a real-world example. Let's say someone has been in a relationship for 8 years. They've told themselves, this is love. This is what I deserve. We're happy. But deep down, they feel drained, disrespected, unseen. Now, if they admit that truth, they'd also have to admit they ignored the red flags, that they stayed too long, that they betrayed themselves. And that kind of self-honesty hurts like hell. So instead, they double down. They defend the relationship. They say, it's just a rough patch. Maybe I'm too sensitive. This is how love is supposed to be. They're not being stupid. They're being human. Because facing the truth often means facing ourselves. And for many, that's the scariest confrontation of all. But it's not just relationships. People defend toxic families, rigid belief systems, bad habits, corrupt workplaces not because they love them, but because leaving would mean questioning everything they've built their identity around. Let me pause here, because this isn't just about them. You do it too. So do I. So does everyone. We all have blind spots. We all tell stories that keep us safe, even when they're slowly breaking us. But here's the liberating truth. Once you realize this pattern, you gain power over it. Next time you feel defensive, triggered, or resistant, instead of snapping back, ask yourself, am I defending truth or protecting a lie that's comforting me? Because the cost of defending the lie is your freedom. And the moment you trade comfort for clarity, that's when your transformation begins. So if someone you love is stuck, don't shame them. Don't try to beat them with logic. Understand that their defense is rooted in fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of wasted years. Fear of not knowing who they are without that belief. Lead with compassion, but don't lose yourself trying to wake them up, because your first responsibility is to not lie to yourself. Rip off the Band-Aid. Face what's real. And remember, defensiveness is a mirror, not a shield. What you rush to defend is often what you most need to confront. Number 6, the confidence loop, and why action comes first. Most people believe confidence is a trait, something you're born with. They say things like, "She's just naturally confident," or "I could never do that. I'm not that type of person." But what if I told you? That belief is the very reason so many people stay stuck, silent, and small. Here's the truth they don't teach in school. Confidence is not a prerequisite. It's a byproduct, and it always comes after one thing: action. Let me explain with a story. Picture a young guy. Let's call him Amir. Amir's always been terrified of public speaking. Sweaty palms, racing heart. His voice cracks every time he opens his mouth in front of a group. He watches confident speakers on YouTube and thinks, "I wish I could be like that." But then one day, something shifts. He doesn't wait to feel ready. He signs up for a 2-minute speech at a community event. His voice shakes. He forgets a line, but he gets through it. The next week, he does it again and again. By his 5th attempt, he's not shaking anymore. He's actually enjoying it. And then it hits him. Confidence didn't magically appear. It was earned through courage, not comfort. This is what psychologists call the confidence-competence loop. Step 1. You take action, even if you feel afraid or unqualified. Step 2. That action builds competence. You get better little by little. Step 3. Competence builds confidence, because now you have evidence that you're capable. And the cycle repeats. The more you do, the more you believe. And the more you believe, the more you do. But here's where most people go wrong. They wait for confidence to show up before they act. And that is a trap. Imagine waiting to feel confident before you learn to swim, before you take a cold shower, before you say, "I love you," or "I quit," or "I want more." You'd never move. Confidence is like a muscle. Unused, it atrophies. Exercised, it expands. And here's something else. Confidence is not loud. It's not arrogant. Real confidence is quiet, grounded, calm. It's walking into a room without needing to prove anything. You don't get that from wishing. You get it from showing up over and over, even when your voice shakes. So if you're waiting for confidence to knock, stop. Knock first. Act first. Speak first. Apply first. Post the video. Ask the question. Start the project. The confidence you're craving, it's already on the other side of action. Here's a simple takeaway. Confidence is not who you are. It's what you build by doing the thing while scared, not after fear disappears. So the next time you think, "I can't do that. I'm not confident enough," flip it. Say, "I'm not confident enough because I haven't done it yet." That shift changes everything. Because the truth is, you're not broken. You're just early in the loop. Number 7, the spotlight effect and the freedom in being forgotten. Let's play a quick game. Think back to a moment when you walked into a room, maybe a class, a meeting, or even a party, and suddenly felt everyone's eyes on you. You adjusted your posture, smoothed your shirt. Your brain screamed, "They're all watching me." Every move, every word, every awkward silence magnified. But here's the psychological twist. They weren't. Welcome to the spotlight effect, a mental illusion where we believe we're the center of attention far more than we actually are. In one study, researchers asked students to wear an embarrassing t-shirt into a room of strangers. Afterward, they were asked, "How many people do you think noticed your shirt?" The students guessed, on average, 50. The real number? Barely 25. Why? Because everyone else was busy worrying about themselves, just like you. And that right there is your freedom. Most people are trapped in invisible prisons made of imaginary judgment. We hesitate to speak up to post that video, to chase that dream, because we think they are watching, critiquing, laughing. But they're not. They're in their own heads, trapped in their spotlight, worrying about what you think of them. It's like we're all walking around with flashlights pointed inward, completely unaware that no one's looking. Let that sink in. Once you understand the spotlight effect, a door opens, the door to liberation. You start realizing you can stutter and they'll forget. You can wear the wrong outfit and no one cares. You can fail publicly and most people won't even notice. Why? Because people are not replaying your worst moments in their heads. You are. And here's where it gets powerful. The moment you internalize this, you stop living to impress and start living to express. You begin to say what you actually think. Do what actually matters to you. Because the fear of judgment no longer holds you hostage. The question shifts from, what will they think of me, to what will I think of myself if I never try? When you realize you're not under a spotlight, you stop tiptoeing. You start taking up space. You walk with the quiet confidence of someone who knows no one's watching. And that's exactly why you're free. So here's your shift. Next time fear creeps in, next time you hesitate because they'll notice, remind yourself of the truth. You are not the main character in everyone else's story. You're barely a footnote. And that is your superpower. Because when you're no longer afraid of being seen, you finally become someone worth noticing. Number 8, how the ego protects and sometimes destroys you. Let's talk about the voice inside your head. The one that says, don't let them talk to you like that. I'm right, they're wrong. I can't fail. I won't fail. That voice. It's your ego, and it's both your armor and your prison. See, the ego's job is to protect you, to maintain your identity, to defend your self-worth, even if it has to bend reality to do it. And at times, it's helpful. It pushes you to compete, to achieve, to stand tall in a world that often tries to shrink you. But here's the catch. When the ego becomes the only voice you listen to, you don't evolve, you entrench. You stop growing and start defending. Let's break it down with an example. Imagine someone gives you feedback. They say, hey, I think you could have handled that situation better. Now, if your ego is running the show, what's your first reaction? Defensiveness, justification, maybe even anger. Why? Because accepting that feedback would mean admitting you're not perfect, that you were wrong. And for the ego, that feels like death. So instead of reflection, you go into protection mode. They don't get it. They're jealous. Who are they to judge me? And just like that, you miss a growth opportunity. You trade truth for comfort. This is the dark side of the ego. It builds walls where there should be windows. Now don't get me wrong, the ego isn't evil. It's human, but it becomes dangerous when you never question it. When every argument is a threat. When every critique is an attack. When your self-worth becomes so fragile, it can't handle being wrong. So how do you master the ego without killing your confidence? Here's the mindset shift. Instead of saying, I'm being attacked, try, I'm being invited to grow. Instead of thinking, I have to be right, try, I want to get it right. Instead of reacting, pause. Reflect. Choose. Because the moment between stimulus and response, that's where power lives. And here's the beautiful paradox. The less you need to defend your ego, the stronger you become. Because strength isn't just holding your ground. It's having the wisdom to say, I was wrong. I didn't know that. I still have more to learn. That's not weakness. That's inner mastery. When you master the ego, you stop being a slave to pride. You stop burning bridges just to win arguments. You stop pushing people away because your ego was bruised. And instead, you gain real confidence. The kind that doesn't need to shout. The kind that listens, learns, evolves. So the next time your ego flares up, ask yourself, is this making me better or just more stubborn? Because in the end, the unbreakable mind isn't the one that's never questioned. It's the one that can question itself and still stay whole. Number 9, mirror neurons, why emotion is contagious. Have you ever walked into a room and without a single word being spoken, you felt the energy? Maybe someone was anxious and suddenly you felt uneasy. Maybe someone was laughing And before you even knew why, a smile crept across your face. That's not coincidence. It's not magic. It's mirror neurons. These are specialized brain cells that literally mimic the emotional states of others. When someone cries, your brain lights up like you're the one crying. When someone is joyful, your brain dances along with theirs. This isn't some abstract concept. It's neurobiology. And once you understand this, you'll finally see just how much power the people around you have over your mind. Here's why this matters. Your friend circle is shaping your mood, your mindset, and your motivation without saying a word. Your partner's energy influences your stress levels more than you realize. Your workplace vibe might be draining you, not because of the job, but because of the emotional undercurrent. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman, deeply motivated, full of creative energy. She joined a new team at work, and little by little, she stopped caring. Not because she changed, but because the people around her were cynical, sarcastic, emotionally flatlined. Her mirror neurons were doing exactly what they're designed to do, adapting, matching, conforming. She didn't realize what was happening until she took a vacation and suddenly felt like herself again. It wasn't her. It was the emotional ecosystem she'd absorbed. Now let's flip the lens. If you want to feel more alive, be around people who radiate life. If you want to feel more hopeful, sit with those who speak in solutions, not problems. If you want to feel more grounded, find people who've mastered emotional regulation and let your neurons learn from theirs. Because here's the truth. You don't rise to your goals. You rise, or fall, to your environment. And what makes this more complex? You're not just receiving emotions, you're transmitting them. Your anxiety is contagious. Your calm is contagious. Your courage, your bitterness, your confidence, your sadness, they're all contagious. So the question becomes, what are you catching from others? What are others catching from you? If your friend group is always tired, broke, angry, or complaining, guess what you'll start becoming? If your coworkers gossip, criticize, and play victim, guess where your energy will go? But if you surround yourself with minds that stretch you, souls that light up, hearts that speak truth without shame, that's when your own energy evolves. It's like tuning forks. Hit one, and the others vibrate in response. So ask yourself this. Who am I tuning into every day? And is that helping me become who I want to be? Because the unbreakable mind doesn't just resist negativity. It curates its environment. It understands that change isn't just internal, it's relational. You're not just a mind. You're a field, an emotional frequency that shapes and gets shaped. Master that, and your transformation won't just stay inside you. It'll ripple out. Number 10. The trick to see through anyone without saying a word. What if I told you you could read people without needing to be psychic, without needing a degree in psychology, without needing them to say a single word? Because the truth is, people are constantly communicating, just not always with their mouths. Here's the trick. If you want to see the truth behind someone's mask, don't watch what they say. Watch what they do when no one's watching. Body language, micro-expressions, delayed reactions, contradictions between tone and words. All of these are psychological tells. And when you know what to look for, you'll never be fooled again. Let's break it down. 1. Watch the delay if someone answers too slowly or too perfectly. They're likely rehearsing, not revealing. Authenticity is rarely scripted. It's messy, raw, immediate. 2. Notice the eyes. Are they darting, avoiding, overcompensating with eye contact to look trustworthy? The eyes aren't just the windows to the soul. They're windows into the story behind the words. 3. Look for incongruence. Someone says, "I'm fine," but their fists are clenched. Their shoulders are tight. Their voice trembles. Believe the body, not the words. 4. Test with silence. Say something and then stay quiet. Most people rush to fill silence. But in that space, their mask slips. They overexplain, contradict themselves, or reveal deeper emotions they didn't mean to share. 5. Observe consistency. Do their stories change depending on who's listening? Do their morals shift when it benefits them? Integrity isn't shown in declarations. It's shown in patterns. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a man who could charm anyone in a room. Smooth talker, confident posture, warm smile. But one thing gave him away: his micro-reactions when people spoke. You'd see a flicker of disdain in his eyes, a barely there smirk when others shared something vulnerable, a subtle eye roll when he thought no one was looking. And that told me more about him than any speech ever could. People reveal themselves in the moments they think no one's watching. Now here's the part most people miss. This trick, it's not just about judging others. It's about seeing them with clarity. And from that clarity, building deeper, truer connections. You'll spot manipulators faster and protect your peace. You'll recognize sincerity and lean into relationships that nourish you. You'll stop falling for charm and start respecting character. Because when you see through people, you stop being controlled by them. You stop projecting fantasies or fears. You start engaging with reality. And that's a superpower. But here's the twist. You must be willing to turn that same lens inward. Can you read your own body language? Catch your own micro-reactions? Notice where you are out of alignment? Because the more you understand your own signals, the better you'll decode others. This is emotional intelligence in action. This is the real mind reading. Not manipulation, not games, but truth-seeking. And in a world full of masks, the seeker of truth becomes unstoppable. So, the next time you're in a conversation, pause. Don't just listen to the words. Listen to the spaces between them. Don't just see the face. See the tension beneath it. And remember, most people aren't lying to you. They're lying to themselves. You're just witnessing the performance. But when your mind is unbreakable, you'll see the script before the act even begins.